Welcome to Be Megnetic, where passion, connection, and authenticity intersect. I'm Megan, and I believe that the stories behind the pursuit of our passions are sometimes more inspiring than the passions themselves. In today's episode, I sit down with best-selling author, international speaker, and transformational mentor for women, Anniston Blair Riekstins. She also happens to be a very dear friend of mine. In this conversation, we talk about my soul contract blueprint, which is something that Anniston has done for years and she's a master in, and it helps you understand yourself. It's been very profound in my life, as well as her book, The Universe is Hiring. And in this conversation, we talk about my unique spiritual and physical challenges, gifts, and goals. We overlay with the cycle, the 9-year cycle, and the specific year that I'm in that cycle. We also talk about love and relationships and who my perfect partner might be. This conversation is extremely introspective and intimate. And Anniston actually told me that she's never had anybody want to share their blueprint publicly before. But I felt very strongly about sharing it just because it has been so profound. I hope that this conversation inspires you to explore yourself and your own passions. And if you find value in it, please like, subscribe, and share. Now, on to my conversation with Anniston. I'm so excited to talk to Anniston Riekstins. Anniston has been a friend of mine now for probably 3 years. We met first through work, and she's been somebody now that I really look up to and has been sort of a trailblazer that I look to in helping women and inspiring people and living so fully authentically in their gifts. And I just love that you have been so brave and so courageous to go and pursue that in all areas of your life, and very open about how you do that in a real authentic way. I felt so strongly about sharing something that Anniston has been honing and learning for a long time that she did for me about 3 years ago, and that was a soul contract blueprint. So I'm going to let her explain exactly what all that means. But I want to be clear as we go through this that Anniston first did this for me about 3 years ago, before I really knew her well. And I think it really matters because we're going to talk about a lot of things of my personality and what I'm meant to go through here and on my soul journey. And I want people to know that this is so authentic, and everything was done before she really knew me well. And now that she does know me a little bit better, it's really cool for her to see and have confirmation of so many of these things that are just mind-blowing and profound happening in my life. And so anyway, so Anniston, thank you so much for joining me today in your time and energy and attention. And let's just talk. Let's go through this. Tell us about what a soul contract blueprint is.
Gosh, well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm so honored to be on your podcast because it's been a long time coming, and you have just the most incredible heart, and you have so much wisdom, and you're a teacher, and I know that you are. And I knew that you were even before I saw your soul blueprint. That was just validation. And obviously we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I guess just a little bit of to kind of rewinding a little bit. I was that person that really desperately did not know who I was. I sought validation outside of myself. I couldn't tell you what I was good at, what I wasn't good at. It's like I just couldn't see myself very clearly, and that started very early on. And so when you feel that way, it's natural to create a lot of masks that you wear. You forget you're wearing the mask. Thus, you wind up creating a life that doesn't ever feel authentic. It doesn't ever really connect or feel quite right, even though it can look perfect on paper. Even though I followed all the rules, right? And I did all the things that everyone said I needed to do or should do. And if I did all those things, then I would, get that badge of feeling fulfilled and successful, and that just didn't happen. And so I was an early on seeker. It started in my early 20s, and I discovered numerology in a time where I was in a massive transition. I was in a big transition in my life. I think it was right around my Saturn return, which if you know what that is, that's when in your life, it happens for everyone. It's like shit gets real, where all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you've got to start adulting and you need to stop pretending like you're adulting. You have to start adulting and figure out who you are.
Mhm.
And so I was gifted a numerology book, and I remember thinking like, that's cute. I mean, numbers are logical, they're precise, they can't like explain people. But I was curious, and I was open-minded. I'm an open-minded person. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to start reading what the heck, what can happen? And as I started reading and calculating my numbers, what I noticed is what I was reading was not vague. Like it was so uncomfortably precise. It was like, it literally felt like someone had walked into a room and turned the light on where I had been fumbling around in for years. And all of a sudden I could like see things more clearly and see, like, I had words to describe how I had been feeling, things I had been thinking where I had never been able to articulate. I felt like I had been articulated. But it didn't feel like I was being profiled or like, this is who you are and this is who you have to be. It was more like, this is what you came to learn. This is why. It gave me the why. It gave me the context that changed the lens that I looked at myself through and my past through and everything that I had been through. And all of a sudden, I saw the through line. And immediately that self-critic, that judgment, that shame, and all the places that I have had thought that I was failing, I got to see through the lens of I was learning and I was doing exactly what I was meant to be doing, and that it's all leading to something. And there's a purpose behind it. And so it gave me a language, it gave me context. And that's really what numerology is. At the core of the universe is numbers. Numbers are the building blocks for everything. And this isn't woo, this isn't mysticism, this is science. And I have studied this explicitly, especially now I'm preparing for a TEDx talk where I'm going to introduce to the world numerology in a really, my hope is in a way that is so digestible and understandable and relatable, because I believe it is just one of the most powerful tools we have to remember who we really are. I believe it's divine, and I believe that it is something that once you're open to can become something that can really catalyze a tremendous amount of change in your life. And so ultimately, everything in the universe is vibration, and numbers create the structure that matter follows. And we see this in every element of nature. We even see this in our human bodies. All of our DNA is encoded, and the way that scientists decode all of our DNA is through numerical patterns, is through mathematics. And so once you understand the number, you understand the code, you then understand how it will most probably manifest. And so we are much the same. We're all given a birth date. This birth date is the one date that's assigned to us the moment we arrive here in the world. And unlike almost everything else in our life, it never changes.
Yeah.
It's always the same. And so it becomes this point, this point that signifies and it represents really the energetic theme that we came to experience. And again, this is not about taking away free will, or not about putting you into a box or a prison and saying, well, this is who you are and you have no way to impact this. No, of course you do. It's a framework. It's kind of like on your phone, we have apps. You have an app. Well, that app runs on invisible lines of code, which is essentially repeating sequences of numbers and instructions and of signals. The code doesn't control everything the app does, but it gives it a framework which creates the operating system of how it can function. And that's essentially what numerology does for us. It reveals the framework that's hidden in plain sight and numbers that we've carried since birth but never understood what they were trying to tell us.
Wow.
So
I love that so much. And it sounds like what you're saying was numerology just really was able to shift your mindset,
yes.
especially at a time in your life where you felt very lost. trying to figure it out, which we can all relate to. I certainly can relate to that more than once, in
Yeah.
seasons of my life. And I find it fascinating because I think so many people have this idea of what numerology or like they see it as woo woo or they don't take it serious. And I love that you have such a deeper understanding and you've studied it that you really can speak to the power of it and the origins of it.
Yeah. Something that we remember, not just with our bodies, we or with our minds, it's there's a resonance there. I cannot tell you how many times I have had clients or people that just message me and say, I felt this like viscerally. Like I felt such a profound oh, but it wasn't just here. And I
Mhm.
do believe, because I do believe that there's an aspect of us that remembers, that fully remembers this. And when you encounter truth, right? And this is something that I've learned and I feel like I'm feeling more and more and more these days. You know, when you get those like full body chill bumps all of a sudden, you hear something or you say something, that's truth. That
Mhm.
is what truth feels like. And not just our logical thinking truth, like information that validates a belief that our mind concocted and created. I'm saying soul truth. We don't feel chill bumps in our brain. We feel it in our bodies. I
Yeah.
call them spirit bumps because it's like that wave of chill bumps, that you
I
get. You're
love
like,
that.
oh
Spirit
my
bumps. I'm so gonna start using that.
spirit bumps.
Getting
And
goosebumps.
that's
Yeah.
truth. That's when and I've got it right now. That's when you have landed on something that is so aligned with your soul and it's important and you need to pay attention.
I love that. I can so identify with that. And I think so true, the body keeps a score and your mind body connection
Yeah.
is a real thing. I mean, I think people compartmentalize between our brain and our body, or mental health or physical health, emotional health, spiritual, and it's all connected. And I love that this is that in a way, and it's proving that we're one. I mean, I'm one piece here.
Yes.
So it's all connected. So I love that. I see a chiropractor who is very holistic approach. When I go in to see her, the first thing she does these pressure points on the back of my head, and she's like, "Which one like hurts the most? Which one do you feel the most?" And according to that, she's able to tell me what part of the body, the circulatory system, my muscles or nervous system, or all these different things. And then she's able to cater the treatment that day for that. But oh, so I have a hip flexor injury. And so she's like, that, and it flares up at different times, which is what's interesting. Some days I wake up and I don't even remember I have an injury
Yeah.
or anything because it doesn't hurt. And then some days I wake up and I am just limping.
Hmm.
And she says it's directly related to safety and security.
Yeah.
And so it's so interesting is you're going to do this blueprint for me
Yeah.
today for everyone to experience that has been something we'll get there, but in my current
Yeah.
season. And so now I'm aware of it and just even the awareness itself helps, right? But then
Yeah.
just being that conscious self-awareness of it is what allows me to
Yeah.
work through that and
It's
really
on your
heal.
left. It's on your left side of your body too, right?
Yes, it's on my left.
So interestingly enough, the symptoms, the experiences that we have on our left side of our body, whether it be pain, whether it be chronic, whether it just be an imbalance, is always something from the past. And it's also our feminine side of our body. And that's a very feminine wound, is the I don't feel safe. There might
Mhm.
not be enough. Like it's that feeling um of fear of lack, but also almost sometimes it can really flare up when wounds around codependency or needing to stand on your own and can I do this and what if it's not safe or what if I'm not capable and all of that, right? That's very left side of your body, whereas the right side is your masculine side, but it also represents the present. So if something's happening on your right, it's probably like really like active in your life right now. Something is going on in your life right now. Whereas the left is like where we hold records.
One of my favorite yoga instructors, she says the same. She's like, when we're working from one side of the body to the other, especially towards the end of the practice, when we're doing a little bit more stretching, she talks about left side is old trauma, right side is sort of new trauma or
Yeah.
more recent things that you're dealing with. So I love that. And also, I have two herniated discs in my neck, and all of the nerve pain that I was experiencing was down my left arm, and I
Wow.
was having numbness in my hand, but it's all been my left side. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we can get into that a little bit
Probably
more as
so.
we go through my blueprint. But
Yeah.
so I'm so excited to share this. So like just to reiterate, Anniston did this blueprint for me 3 years ago. We got started on it. We got stopped. It got interrupted. And then we finally finished it about a year and a half ago. And I was going back through it just the other day, sort of as a fluke. And it hit me very profound again because of what has transpired in the last few years.
Yeah.
And I, reached out to you and I was like, I just feel so strongly about sharing this and sharing this work with others. And I know how much it's helped me and shifted my mindset too. I haven't, I haven't always in my life been open to numerology or anything that was considered too woo-woo. But
Hmm.
now I'm like, I think regardless of what you believe, no matter what religion you believe in or what God or higher power or whatever, things like this though, especially rooted in science, it's about what you take from them, about what
Yeah.
you learn, about how you feel and paying attention to that. So whether or not you believe, like it's not about that. It's about how do you feel about this and being open. At the end of the day, I always try to be curious, be open, and just kind of take what I feel aligned with or take what works for me and leave what doesn't.
Yeah.
So okay, so I'm gonna let you take it away. I
Awesome.
probably will have some questions going through, but
Cool.
um
Well, we'll
but
dive
yeah.
right in. And I
Yeah.
know you had asked me specifically about Soul Blueprint, which I didn't actually explain the difference. And so numerology is obviously it's everything based on numbers. The specific and I practice many different forms of numerology. There's Western numerology, which is more so around your birth date, also around the energy of your name. But I discovered something called soul contract numerology, oh, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And this was a much deeper layer and level of this work that I had ever encountered. And essentially, it's based on your date of your name at the time of birth. So the name that's on your birth certificate, it's translated into ancient Hebrew from there into the numerical equivalent. That's all I need to tell you about it. But it is, just so you know, it is a rarer form of numerology, but what it uncovers is essentially your soul's like plan for this lifetime. That's the simplest way that I can put it, right? It's at the deepest level, your soul, the aspect of you that never dies, right? Plan for this life of what it was that you wanted to come and experience and master, the gifts that you wanted to hone and share, the goals that you ultimately wanted to experience and to embody and to carry the essence of a certain energy, and then overall overarching your soul destiny. So it really answers the question of why did this happen to me, or why do these patterns keep showing up? What are my innate natural gifts? I call these your energetic signature. Like, what is my energetic signature? Meaning, like, what makes me like that unique snowflake everyone talks about? Well, I can tell you.
Yeah.
And then and what am I here to do? Like, what path should I be walking? Or, and more likely, it's validation of where you're being kind of inner encouraged to go, because we our path wants us to be on it just as much as we want to be on our unique path. We just get a little sidetracked sometimes when we doubt our own inner guidance system. And so what it really is realigning with that inner guidance system. And so what I'll do right now is, because obviously you guys can't see the blueprint or the things that I see, is I'm just going to take you through high level some of Megan's chart, because she's so open and on, and she's like, hey, everyone
Oh
here,
yeah.
it's a very private thing. I've never actually had a
Yeah.
client who's like, let's record this and share this, because for a lot of people, this is like, it's like peering into the depths of your soul, and it reaches a true level of truth. But I know that you're very open, and you just want to share your heart with the world. So good on you. So kudos to you because I think that's amazing. So we're going to start with what is your greatest, I would say, challenges, like the things that you encountered from early in life. I call it like the program that would have created a lot of the distortion for you, the imbalances for you, those patterns that tended to like keep repeating over and over again. And for you, the main theme was really around self-worth. And it would have started early, which means, the parents that you would have, your soul would have chosen would have given you the perfect opportunity to feel like you've had a loss of worth, right? A loss of self-worth, not for any there's never any blame in this. In fact, I actually believe that the parents that we choose, and I do believe the soul has a hand in choosing that, are willing participants in our play, right? They're everyone is playing their character perfectly for what you need as a soul to experience in order to learn and to grow. And so for you, it was really about coming into a situation where you doubted yourself, where you didn't feel like it was okay to just be Megan. So talk to me about that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that was one of the first things I remember when we started this, and it's my karmic challenge, right? Is
Yeah.
self-worth. And it's interesting because my mom was very critical. I felt like nothing was ever good enough. And I know that it was her way of pushing us to be better. So like as an adult, and I've worked through so much of this, I can certainly, look at this without any kind of blame or shame on her part. But as a child, like I remember those feelings of then nothing's ever good enough, be always being criticized. And I have very early memories too of like I loved makeup as a kid. But I remember as I got more artistic into makeup, it was kind of my one creative outlet that I felt like I had to hide that. I remember like hiding in my room, playing with makeup and putting makeup on myself, or I would put makeup on my close friends. But I remember I got really embarrassed if anybody ever was watching me do my makeup.
Yeah.
That went all the way through like college. But also like I would put makeup on. I remember like probably eighth grade, seventh, eighth, ninth grade. And I remember I loved this pink and purple eyeshadow combination that I used to do. And I just loved it. And I remember coming downstairs and being so conscious about what my mom was going to say about it,
Mhm.
and or even my sisters, and again, like no blame or shame to them. We're all doing our best. But
Yeah.
I remember that those deep feelings of like, I'm going to be criticized. It's not going to be good enough. Or no matter what I did, it
Yeah.
wasn't going to be enough. And I remember feeling like I had to hide this, what I now know is this gift that I had and just this creative draw to makeup from a really young age. But then, I feel like my dad was very nurturing. I had a really good relationship with him, even though he was very strict as well. Of course, he had four daughters. So, I mean, if you can
Yeah.
imagine, poor thing. He had three sisters and then four daughters. So, but he was such a good dad and very nurturing. And I had a very special relationship with him. So I felt very confident through that relationship as
Mhm.
well, that I could do anything and I could, whatever I set out to do, like I could do. I felt very empowered in that relationship. So it was sort of this like dichotomy,
Dichotomy.
two, forces on me. And so as an adult, I've certainly worked through, even in my 20s, so like prior to getting married at 29, I was always like that confident, strong, like if anyone ever lied to me, cheated, disrespected me, like I was gone. So it didn't feel like that self-worth was really a, a challenge during
Yeah.
those years. I think I finally like stepped out. Went to college. I was doing all my sorority sisters makeup. I finally decided to leave school and pursue this. So that was very empowering. That was like working through that challenge and feeling empowered with that. And then we'll get to the next season, but then through that next season with being
Yeah.
married and all that, what that brought, it just started to slowly erode.
Right.
So long answer to your question,
But
but
yes.
yes, very early on, I felt even specifically to what my gift is in,
Yeah.
I feel in makeup and helping to unveil beauty, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, it
Yeah.
was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, usually shows up in ways that are, it can show up in many different ways. Obviously in relationships, because relationships like are our greatest mirrors, and it's where the deepest work we do on these big challenges is oftentimes in our serious relationships. So any of those that last longer than, 1, 2 years, well, you can wear a mask for so long, eventually the inner child comes out. Like that is, I think science shows it's around 2 years time. That's when the inner child starts to show itself. And you're like, you've changed. No, no one's changed. You're getting to see a more real version of them, and they're getting to reflect back a more real version of you, right? And all of the, maybe the wounding and the things that you haven't approached. Also, what can happen too is early on, that's where some of that feminine masculine wounding can happen. It sounds like you had a really great experience, in terms of feeling unconditionally loved by and accepted by your father, which creates really healthy masculine. We all have both of those energies. The feminine side, where maybe we don't feel accepted or we don't feel unconditionally loved, just the way that we are, can then set up some wounding on that, on as it relates to feminine. So we can talk about that later. But really, anytime I see this in a challenge position, what is your greatest challenge is oftentimes what will simultaneously become one of your greatest superpowers once you really started to shine a light of awareness on it, and you started responding differently to it. That is the way through it. It's not to demonize it or to repress it or avoid it or push it down or make it bad. It's not a punishment. On the other end of it is your pot of gold. And so for you, like, you're a phenomenal teacher. And on the other side of lack of self-worth, or feeling like your voice isn't worthy, your creative pursuits aren't worthy, or aren't being validated, or you don't feel like they're important enough, or that you're good enough, or that you're enough. Like, it's that I'm enough, that in order to stand up and teach and to share your knowledge and to express out into the world, you have to feel worthy of being heard. That's the thing. And so that's what you kind of have to look out for, because that will show up at every new level. You'll get to encounter it again of like, well, am I worthy of being heard in this space? Right?
Mhm.
Am I worthy of being heard in this way? And is it safe for me, or am I worthy of being seen, and sharing whatever I'm creating out into the world without, and doing it confidently from a place of like, I love what I'm creating, and that's all that matters, right? And so it all circles back to you. And when you started to really heal that and practice and give yourself the validation that you had been seeking, your life started to unfold in a really cool way, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so that's your main challenge.
Okay.
Then the other one, and I'll just go to the other one, then we'll go to the gifts. How about that?
Okay.
The other one, because everyone has two, not 10, thankfully. I mean, we all have varying degrees and levels of this, and it always manifests in unique ways. But for you, like, your physical challenge is something that we experience pretty early in life. And then we have another challenge that tends to really build up in like midlife. That's when we start getting into more of the spiritual aspects of our chart, which we call that in our world midlife crisis. It's not. It's a natural progression from one focus to another. And so for you, this next challenge is, and what you're probably experiencing more of even now, is around trust. And this isn't a spiritual aspect too. So this is like really an internal game of shining a light on any of those areas where you doubt taking a risk, or what if the unknown or uncertainty can feel very dangerous. It can feel, in our nervous system will remind us of that this is not safe, that you shouldn't be doing this. And life is going to continue to put things in front of you that are going to say, take the leap, you'll be caught, take the leap. And that is you really mastering and flexing this muscle of becoming someone, because trust doesn't live in the mind. It's actually it's a felt sense. You can't think trust. Trust is a feeling. It's literally like in every cell of your body. And so this isn't just about you learning trust and you consciously thinking, I trust. This is you becoming the embodiment of certainty in your
I have to write
knowing.
that down. Sorry.
Yeah. And
Embodiment
the embodiment of certainty, where
of
it's not even a
certainty.
question. You just have this safety within you. It's this knowing. It's this like, I'm certain. this is the right way. I'm
Mhm.
trusting. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
this is not a mental game. It's in the body.
Yeah. Which makes so much sense. What I mentioned before, my hip flexor injury
Yes.
or injury.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, we're gonna work on that. That's so funny. Okay. One other thing that I wanted to just go back to quickly because I just have some notes from when you've done my
Mhm.
blueprint is my self-worth being directly a reflection of my finances or
Yes.
vice versa. If you could speak to that
Yes.
a little bit.
Thank you for bringing, yeah. So the numbers that you have in this specific aspect, and when it's in a challenge, um, a lot of times there can be this learning through like having a lot and then feel like it's like this polarity between feeling like you're in overflow and there's so much and then all of a sudden there's not. And it is directly tied. I call it your self-worth account. It's like your how you are feeling and how worthy you are feeling and whatever you are doing is going to dictate how much money you're making.
Mm,
And so I've seen this so many times where someone can be like doing really, really, really well, right? And then all of a sudden they have an experience where they are now questioning their ability, capability, their worthiness. They're questioning, they're starting to feel incapable, or they're starting to feel like they don't have what it takes, or whatever that is. And it doesn't matter what they do. They could be using the exact same strategy they were using before, doing the exact same thing with the exact same people, and their bank account is going to start to go down. It's reflective there. So the greatest thing when people say to me, I really want to manifest a lot of money, I'm like, well, you're only going to manifest what you think you're worthy of. And so let's start there. Let's start with worth. And yes, you can look at the strategies and you can talk to a business, whatever you want to do, but don't skip this part because this is the most important part.
I completely understand that and feel that. Do you feel like then that your worthiness is a direct reflection then of you living and working in your passion and your purpose? How does that correlate? So when you were saying someone could be doing really well financially and then start having doubts, does that mean that they're living and working in their purpose and their passion to make a lot of money or not necessarily?
Yeah, yeah. So this, I see. Let me give you an example of how this can happen. So I'll use the football example, right? You've got the offensive and you've got the defensive. And this is what I see happen all the time. And it's happened to me too, where someone is like, let's say you're in an organization and you've got your eye on like, you know what? I really want to elevate, but I'm just going to get in here and I'm going to do my thing. And you're so honed in on what you're doing and people start to see you because you start to kind of shine because if you're in the right role and you're being able to flex into things that you're naturally good at, then you're naturally more fulfilled. You're feeling good. You're getting revalidated from outside of you. People are mirroring back like, wow, I really am good at this. And wow, like, and you start to shine and you're doing so well. So you start to shine so bright that someone from top says, hey, we should really elevate them and let's put them into a higher position and give them more money and give them more responsibility because they're very capable. And so at first, it's like a notch in your cap. You're like, ooh, your self-worth kind of goes up. You're like, I mean, I'm amazing. Like this is so good. And so
Yeah.
your money's going up. Then you get into that role, and all of a sudden your identity hasn't caught up yet to it. You haven't done all of these things yet. You're being given new things to do. You're in a new situation. So you're like, oh my gosh, what if I fail at this? What if I'm not good at this? And then all of a sudden that light starts to dim. You start to get into overwhelm, stress, fear, whatever. It triggers those old self-worth wounds.
Mm.
And now you're fighting to keep. Now you're in the defensive mode, right? Like the football team that is like trying to defend their title, which is far less power than those that are showing up and having fun and playing because they love the game. You see what I mean?
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
what you need to do, and I would recommend is to how do you get back to that love, right? To then just reconnecting to who are you, and doing things like this is helpful because it reminds you of like who you are and what gifts that you have and how valuable you are and reconnecting to that and then showing up in that energy And knowing that you can't lose anything that's aligned with you. If it's meant for you, it's
Yeah.
going to be there. And that will help you
Yeah.
mitigate the fear. Your money will start to go back up. So just know
Mhm.
that at any time of transition, this is going to happen. You just have to have
Okay.
tools. It's
Yeah.
normal. It's totally normal for it to happen, but you have to have the tools so you don't allow yourself to start identifying with this very transitionary period between identities.
Yeah. What I hear what you're saying is just really the difference between like abundance and scarcity and
Yes.
that pendulum, right? Or the
Yes.
scales. But I think what came to mind for me was anytime I've been in an experience like that, I always have a gratitude practice. And
Yes.
I feel like I practice it all day long. But that gratitude, I know for me, is what brings me back into that passion and that fun and that
Yes.
abundance of like, oh my gosh, like in so many different ways. I go, oh my gosh, people are paying me a lot of money to put makeup on their face and they're just going to wash it off in like 8 hours,
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. I mean, what I loved to do as a kid, what I was hiding in my room doing, but what I loved to do,
Yes.
literally people are paying me so much money and all the places I've been and the people I've met and the things I get to do, the conversations I get to have, like that right there, just thinking about that, it brings me so much gratitude and so much power, really inner
Yeah.
power. Like I chose this, I had the courage to choose this path and bringing back that passion. So I
Yeah.
think at least for me, I know that it's almost as simple as that, as just like redirecting my thoughts to
Yeah.
no, hold up. Like, and the trust situation, or which I conversation, which I know we're going to get to, but is like when you look at the past, I look at, or what my fears or doubts are. I look at the past, I'm like, none of that has ever happened. Why am I
Yeah.
scared of it? Now, why do I think now all of a sudden that's going to happen? For those people that are like super intellectual and they want, and it has to make sense that way and not in your feeling, it's like, okay, well, like look at the past and look at what you've come from. Look what your fears were 10
100%.
years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. Did that happen? And you know what? Maybe some of your fears did happen, but then that's a whole nother conversation when you go into, well, I learned the most from my failures or from my fears happening or whatever,
Yes.
And then you do
Yes.
what you're afraid of. It's not a fear anymore. And that's, a whole nother conversation. But that's
Yeah.
what that brings up for me is having a daily practice, whatever it is you need
Yes.
to do to keep yourself in that mindset.
100%. I call it like spiraling up. And because I
Yeah.
do believe that we're all moving, like our energy field is like a spiral, and we can be sitting at the top of the spiral, which is like a gratitude, joy, peace, and like and love. And then in a minute's notice, we're down into fear, with how we're responding to things. And that's normal. Like it's going to happen. The key is you want to get yourself back into the higher rungs of that spiral. And gratitude changes your altitude. It is the quickest way to get you there
Yeah.
because you cannot, at the same time as you're thinking about all the things you're grateful, you're not simultaneously thinking about all the things that you're afraid of.
Mhm.
And we can always find something to be grateful. Always. There's something to be grateful for. And we have to train our minds to do this because that's not the way our hardware was built. So, but it can be trained and it can become our default. So good on you.
Totally believe that. And so many things are coming up. I'm always, to say that I'm just this, I love to be the student of life and I'm
Yeah.
always listening to and reading and I think about the different vibrations. It was probably in Radical Forgiveness, the book that you
Mhm.
actually recommended for me a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And talking about just the different vibrations and gratitude, I think is the top
It's
high
actually not, I
vibration.
think you might be talking about Power versus Force with Dr. David Hawkins. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I don't think I've read that
Oh,
one.
oh gosh, girl, you got to read that book. But that he gives the he calls it the scale or the map of human consciousness, but it's basically an emotional scale, and shame is the lowest at 20. It's the absolute lowest. Guilt is right above that. Then you've got anger, and then it goes all the way up. Neutral is about 250. Gratitude, I believe, is at around 350. So automatically it gets you up well over neutral, right? Joy is, I think, around 500. Do you want to know what one of the highest, well, it's not the highest by any way, shape, or form. At 700 is meaning.
Mm,
When
that
you
makes so much
think
sense.
about in those moments where you're like,
Mhm.
what I am doing, like there is this is like the realm of devotion. When you're so devoted to your mission or whatever that thing is, that's when you unlock this like I call it like it's like unlocking the supernatural forces of the universe when miracles and synchronicities and support and things will start showing up in droves because you are accessing this energy that is gold, which is when you've landed on your purpose and there's meaning in your life. That's it.
Hmm.
That's the code, cheat
Oh my
code right
gosh.
there.
I completely am aligned with that. And I feel so much of that with as a makeup artist, going back to like my passion and how I got started is something I've been thinking about more recently with
Yeah.
celebrating 20 years as a makeup artist this year and thinking about my next 20 years and just going back to the root of why I was so drawn to it, why it is my passion. And it was when I would do someone's makeup, even though I wasn't even that good probably back then, but it didn't matter. Like someone was falling in love with themselves. And
Yes.
that is where I feel that meaning and that purpose. And I love that you said devotion because I wake up and I devoted to that. And that's
Yeah.
how I'm wired, and like what
Yeah.
I feel that my gift is.
Well, I
So,
can attest to that, being someone who has received the gift of your genius
oh,
and sat in that chair. It does not feel like you've done this thousands of times. Like that's always, I think you show up and you're present, you're there. And actually that leads into one of your main gifts is you're incredibly grounded. You're able to be like really here, like in your body, wherever you are, and to be there. Doesn't mean that you don't get lost in your mind and whatever. But one of your gifts is really about is this ability to connect with all different kinds of people. Like, and anything that you create will be very like, I call it like, this is like the mass market energy where people, you could put you in a room anywhere with any amount of people, all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, and you would be able to like network like a boss. Like, I know I know you are, like, because you can just go and talk to anybody. But that's what makes you so it's an incredible tool to have in business. But simultaneously, what's interesting is it's a very nurturing energy. It's this energy where people feel very like safe in your space. They feel nurtured and cared for. And so they want to be around you. It is a very magnetic number, but it's more than that. It's like you have this ability to just connect emotionally with people on such a profound level. I would say probably that's one of your superpowers is that connection.
I love that. And I do feel that because part of what I love to create is an experience, right?
Yeah.
Like you're getting your makeup done. But as you know, in the capacity that we've worked together on
Yeah.
projects, it's not just painting your face. I have
Yeah.
band-aids and medicine and all these other things. I think about the whole big picture too of like the needs there. And it is a nurturing
Yeah.
energy, right? Of like, I want to make sure you are cared for when you're in my chair or you're having this experience. And it's funny because so many people have told me, they're like, you'd be such a good mom. You'd be such a good mom. You're so nurturing and
Yeah.
and I'm like, I know I would be a good mom. I never really
But
seen that for myself, but
mothering energy it
yeah, yeah,
far exceeds just like the humans that you birth out of your body. And I think that's you mother like you do. Like I can't tell you how many times you're like, here's a Kleenex, here's this. Oh, you
yeah.
need this. Let's put some, and even when we're out of the chair, it was like you always were looking and seeing like what do they need? How can I support? How can I make her feel more comfortable? And oftentimes you're doing this before women are stepping into doing something big or something maybe that's out of their comfort zone. And I think you're a very calming presence. And
Mhm.
that's something that is you cannot buy that. You cannot. Like it's just you either have it or you don't, and you have it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I would sit here and be like, thank you for saying that, but it's in my chart.
it's in your chart.
It's
So
in my
you know
reading.
what?
It's
You
not
can
even
just be
like,
like, I received that. I know.
yeah, I
I'm pretty
received that.
awesome.
Thank you. I agree with it. I recognize it. I'm not ashamed about saying yes, that is
No.
how I am. I know that's how I am, and I love that about myself. And that's one thing that
Good.
I also want other women especially, to be okay to say yes, like thank you. I am that way. I'm proud of that. I love that about me, and I don't have
Yeah.
to say thank you with any caveats. I don't have to have any caveats. I can
Yeah.
I can accept that and appreciate that.
It's part of your, I think literally like anyone listening out, here's what I want you to hear. Okay. Moving forward into this new world that we are walking into, which make no mistake is going to be very different, I believe. I don't think we're going to really sell anymore. It's not going to be the same game of we're selling information. Like I'm selling you information that I know that you don't, because information is no longer a rare commodity, right? It's so accessible. What we will be aligning with and utilizing, I think, more is our own unique energetic gifts and our energetic signature. I think that's the best way to put it, which is your essence. It's what people experience and feel in your presence that is unique to you. They can't get this anywhere else. And it's who they become around you. Because just by spending time with you, you're going to like activate gifts within them they didn't even know they had. You're going to help them in a way that no one else can. And I think a lot of people are afraid. They have this fear of my job's going to go away or this is going to go away. And I actually think that this is going to open up the world for us to truly live our authenticity and to truly see ourselves and to celebrate and to do the things that light us up, because when we do, we light up the world. And in doing so, we become abundant and we become successful and all the things that are there without feeling like you have to abandon yourself in the process. And it's the opposite now. It's a reclaiming of yourself, because you've got to reclaim yourself to actually access all the power you have within you. Like for you, you have this other spiritual talent, or your other talent, which is really about manifestation. It's about creativity. But what's interesting is, because it's in a spiritual aspect, it tells me like there's something, many things, because you're very creative and I know this about you, but there is something that you are meant to create, but it's going to be more of a spiritual nature. It's going to be something more in that realm, which you're already there. You're interested, you know what I mean? You're learning, you're growing, but like, this could lend itself to a book. It could lend itself to a podcast. It could lend itself to, this is where you're going to do, you might think you've been creative and you created a lot in your life. I think this is where you're going to create the most tools, resources, creative expression in many different forms. And it's usually someone who is going to have some form of a spiritual business, or it's going to bring spirituality into a business, but you straddle creativity and the ability to focus. You have this gift of this ability to not only have an idea, but then to actually execute it and bring it across the finish line. And that is not common. So that's your other gift.
Okay, that's so exciting because
I know.
I feel like in other little ways looking back, I can certainly see that where I'm like, oh, I have this idea. And I've always said I feel like I'm very resourceful.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I have this idea, and I can connect the dots and actually make it happen. But I've also seen that show up for me in ways where I'm like, oh, I see an idea, whatever it is, like something on Pinterest or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I can make that better. And I can take that as a little bit of, fuel or an inspiration. And then I go, oh, but I can make that better and I can do it this way.
Well, and it all flows together too, because your challenge, which is this trust, right? As you continue to flex that and to work through that, your gift of creativity and manifestation through focus gets even stronger. Because think about it. In order to really create and be able to say, I'm committing to devoting my attention and my energy to this, you got to trust, right? You got to trust. And you've got to understand that you're going to get these creative ideas, but with those creative ideas doesn't come this like guarantee of an outcome. So you got to trust, right? So they go hand in hand for sure.
Yeah, I think that what that makes me think of too is like trusting that maybe the way that I see it or my expectations, I have to be open to how that manifests, like, and not trying to control too much of that outcome and going, okay, yeah, maybe I'm trying to manifest this and I see it this way, but then also being open when things pivot or shift.
Yeah, some things will be for you. Some things will be for a lot of people. Some things will be like worldwide. Some things will be small, and it's really falling in love with the process of creation and allowing yourself to, and knowing that, and there will be another, and there will be another, right? It's just, and knowing that you're just a creative machine and you will always be. And so as long as you allow yourself to continue to flex into that, you will always be in alignment. You will always be right on time. And so that is a gift that will continue to strengthen for you. If we get into your goals, so this is really, your goals are essentially like as you've worked through your challenges and your gifts are bubbling to the surface, those gifts actually then help you reach your goals. And so for you, one of your goals is actually, it's a little bit more specific in nature because it's really this number that's about creating a space or a business or a center, like literally something physical that is a place that people will come and that they in some way can benefit from. Like they can, like it can be service related, it cannot be. I see this number sometimes with architects, people that are in real estate, people that like want to actually build spaces. But I also see it in situations where it's more like creating a space, but maybe that like for people to come and learn, but that could also be in the form of a book or a podcast. That can be in many different ways. And so this is the part of your chart, Megan, that is most activated right now for you.
Okay.
And so this is interesting because this is telling me there's something brewing. Either you're aware of it or you're not aware of it yet, but that is wanting to come through you, but it probably feels big. And there's going to be this inner critic that is like, I don't know if this is possible. I don't know if I'm ready. Like that's a big one for this. Like, oof, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I have what it takes to do this right now. So it can kind of create some procrastination of like putting some things on the back burner, but it's a very powerful number. It's just, it is truly about creating a space for others to come and use, for you to obviously share your gifts. And it can be a business. It doesn't have to be a business, but what's that bringing up for you right now? Is there
Oh
anything that's
gosh,
coming to
so
mind?
many things. So, well, first of all, I have had so many ideas swirling in my head, and even in just the last like week, it's all started with just this 20-year mark has been
Yeah.
just a big milestone for me in my career. And so now I'm thinking how I want my next 20 years to go. And I'm thinking about it's like all of these things swirling in my head of how much I love. I mean, I watch a podcast every single day or like a different one. And I love one of my best friends I talk to every single day, and she's super intellectual. And we talk about ideas and things or what we're going through in our lives and
Yeah.
then how those things are relevant. But also I just light up having conversations with people and learning and helping like inspire other women that I meet that are going through things that maybe I've gone through or just sitting with them and making them feel special or whatever. And then just how I want to share because I love doing makeup. That's a big part of my meaning and purpose, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like and they say your purpose isn't what you do, it's what others feel
It's
when you
how
do
that's
what you
other.
do, how
Yep.
others feel. And that brings me so much meaning and purpose. And especially when I've done that for someone who maybe is experiencing a season of lack, or maybe is down and out, or maybe has
Yeah.
never seen themselves like that. And it's so true how if you look good, you feel good, and it's all connected. And I feel a lot of passion in doing that as well. And I think about how cool would it be to have a space that would encompass where I could do master classes. I love to teach. I usually do them one-on-one,
Mm-hmm.
but to be able to do them with almost a bigger community, a type of like girls' day out
Yes.
situation. I have a new approach that I think is really unique for teaching in that way because I think, like you said, we have all this information, we have all these resources. Like anyone can go get on Instagram or YouTube and watch someone do their makeup or learn about products. It's all over there, but all
Yeah.
out there. But why is it that women still don't know how to do it?
Yeah.
Why is it that it's
100%.
still like, but I can't do it the same, or I'm not artistic. I hear that all the time. I'm not
Yeah.
artistic like you, so I can't do it. So anyway, I really feel strongly about, showing women that if you really want to learn to do your makeup, you can,
Yeah.
but you have to work at it. You have to believe that you can, and I can show you. But
Yeah.
so a space for that, a space where I love photo shoots. And so almost like just a big industrial space, a place, a corner where I can do a podcast, you know?
It sounds pretty on point, is
I
what I'm
know.
gonna say.
I
Like
know. And so I've even thought
literally.
lately about, I think what comes up for me when you talked about fear and doubt or that sort of hesitation or
Yeah.
procrastination is knowing where my strengths are and knowing that where my weaknesses are and the things that all that takes, the admin side of that, the operations, the
Mhm.
logistics of that, and going, I need support. I
Yeah.
know that I need help. But is one of those behaviors of imposter syndrome that's like, well, I need support and I have trouble asking for help. I've always kind of been that like independent driver. Asking for help is weakness or whatever. And I know that that's not true. It's just then, okay, I don't know that I'm scared to ask for help, but I need the right people
Yeah.
that are also aligned in the vision, that also are around me, that I'm very protective of my peace and energetically who I have around and who I'd want to partner with.
Hmm.
I take that very serious. And so I think about, well, who do I already know? Or is the universe going to bring someone new into my life for that? I don't know. And so I feel like I'm in a really good place of understanding those things and being able to go, okay, like I know I might be scared or I might be
Yeah.
feeling this, but I believe and I trust that the universe is bringing something or there is someone already in my life. But it's also just like getting off the ground and just
Yeah.
it not having to be perfect and just
And
going
just
through with it and doing
letting it
it.
unfold, because that's the thing too. I think the first step is you just being willing to acknowledge, and this is again why I love this work, because it's like, well, God, I mean, gosh, kind of feels a little specific there. And again, maybe it's this, or maybe this is gonna just spur the next evolution of the idea. But it's the body, yes. It's like the getting to the point where you're like, I know that there's a lot of unknowns, and this is going to stretch me into areas that maybe I don't feel are my strengths, or I have a story around, because it's only a story, right? And the only way to break through a story is to literally break through a story, is to like just say, I'm going to do the thing that I've said I'm not good at, or I'm going to do the thing that I feel like is going to be hard. And you know what? Maybe it gets to be really easy. And if we go, the thing is, like when I look at your spiritual gift, um, it is this gift of the teacher. Like
Mm,
you will be most fulfilled. Most of, and so it's interesting how you've already have this vision, right? You want to have this space, but you simultaneously want to teach, because you are meant to teach. You
mhm.
have that is very specific in your chart. Like you are someone who is meant to gather information, and you love to gather information, and you've got it, like this inner library of resources, but then to express it out in a way that only you can. And to be creative in that, and to be open in that. And what's interesting is your overarching soul destiny is about being a magnet for like-minded people, for being a unifier, for being someone who is so authentic and so open-hearted that they just show up as they are. They naturally draw in those like-minded people who are in need of what you have, or who whatever. But it's more than that. It's like you become this like facilitator, this unifier. I see a lot of people who have, I also have the same soul destiny as you, and it's like where I notice the more that I show up and I lean in to who exactly I am, the more my life opens up, the more magic happens, the more opportunities just come out of nowhere, the more people want to support me, the more that, like, I mean, it's really wild. And I've known this, right? But it's a process, because there's an element of you need to feel safe. You need to feel safe after maybe having your heart hurt or being betrayed or whatever, to heal that and to reintegrate as a whole authentic person. And that's who you show up in the world with, and everything you need, every person that you need will just be magnetized to you. And that, so you've literally, this chart is designed perfectly for like everything that you will need. You just need to say yes.
Yes.
You need to
Yes.
say yes.
Like I want to wake up every morning, I'm going to say yes. I'm just going to wake up and say
Like,
yes.
I'm saying yes, universe, bring it, bring
Bring it.
it.
Well, and I think too so much about I'm more than anything, I'm just excited because the reason I wanted to do this with you today was because it was so profound going back and looking at this at like where I am right now and that I am
Yes.
saying yes and that I don't feel scared. I feel excited. Yes, there's some unknown, but I feel excited about that.
Good.
And I think too back at the confidence conversation and the
Yeah.
courage and I'm like I have done so many hard things. Like this isn't the hardest thing I've ever done. You know, and I look back to, I mean, from a young age, I left college early. I was like, I got to go pursue this. I made my fear of regret bigger than my fear of failure. I
Yeah.
went off and moved to Miami with no money, no job, no connections. Way long before social media. I went off and I pursued, and I do feel like I've trained for this. I've exercised
Yes.
this muscle for a long time. But I think I went through a season where I lost myself in my marriage, and which is a lot to unpack there, but a lot that I've processed. But I'm so grateful because I would not, for the last 8 years, I went through things that I would have never been able to go through. I would never learn the things I would never have gotten into yoga, which really changed my life. I would never have gotten into so much therapy and self-help and realizing how much it helped me. It did expand me and stretched me and
Mhm.
it made me more curious. And even though simultaneously I was still trying to use those things to like and save my marriage and help this person, you know, that I
Yeah.
cared so deeply about, it was still this transformation that was happening in myself that now looking back I can see and I believe and feel it all that it was just for such a divine purpose. And even in the last 2 years being out of my marriage and navigating, there's just things that come up that you can't predict. You think, oh, like I finally had the courage to go ahead and like choose myself and walk away. And that act in itself is extremely powerful, but then there's still day by day things that you have to navigate and things that come up and the uncertainties that you just can't predict. And so then
Yeah.
you go with that. I feel so strongly that this is the path that I'm meant to be on and I'm
Yeah.
meant to share, and not from a place of like I know it all at all, because I don't. I just know what I've been through and
Mhm.
I am so excited to continue to learn and to grow and to learn from other people. And so I think, and
Yeah.
I know that and feel that strongly. So, um, so this has just been coming back here and with the work that you do is just, I'm so grateful for it. And so it's so profound for me. And I
Oh,
think it's
thank you.
super profound for other people. So I would love for other people to get in contact with you to be able to do it. But I have one other question
Sure.
for you based on all of this and what you know about me. Who do you think is my perfect partner in life?
Oh,
I've been so picky and I've been single, I've been dated. I feel like I'm finally open, but I'm so intentional about who I want a partnership and someone I can admire and respect,
yeah.
who's a leader.
That's
So,
you always, and I think you've got to honor that too, right? You've got to honor that if you don't have that natural drive to want to get out there and be dating, then there's probably a reason for that. And I think there's timing and everything. It's
mhm,
interesting because I do this work that what I see, I do something called a relationship overlay where I have a chart. I have like, so I would have yours. And
mhm.
then if you had a partner, husband, boyfriend, whatever, I can look at theirs next to yours. And what I see when I look at someone and I look at like previous partners, there's a progression. And what's interesting is I can tell you exactly what's being activated in your chart, what you're learning from each one. And so the next level of partner that you bring in is going to be the perfect partner for your next level. There's no such thing as the perfect partner, right? Like there's no such
Sure.
thing as the person who's never going to trigger you or like that would be
Right.
a waste of your time. But
Mhm.
what this person will reflect is where you are now, right? And so you know that in your previous relationship, for instance, that you both were teaching each other something very specific and you learned that lesson. And so now it'll be time for another level, but as we spiral up, like, right, that those I feel like the level of partner we meet is going to be reflective of your more authentic self, which is going to feel easier. It's going to feel more
Mhm.
natural. It's going to because you will only attract the person that you're being essentially, right? And so if you want what I always recommend is like make that list of the qualities that you want, and then your only job is to be that. You be
Oh yeah,
that.
I've already done that. Yeah, that's
Be
yeah.
it. Like you want kind, you want
Yeah.
open, you want vulnerable, you
Mhm.
want loyal, you want all these things as long as you're being that. Like I've seen women who are like, I want a 10 out of 10. I'm like, well, are you being a 10 out of 10? Because if you want a 10 out of 10, then you got to be a 10 out of 10. Like that's just the way it is. Or if you're being a 4 and you're asking for a
Yeah.
10, like that's just
Mhm.
not universally, and the universal law
Mhm.
says, like
Yeah.
attracts like. So but knowing you personally, I do think that you need someone who sees you, who celebrates you, but who also is whole in himself, has his own passions and his own creative pursuits, or at least who gives you the space for that. You know what I mean? Like, like that person that is like your greatest cheerleader, but compliments you so well, like that you love and honor his path and purpose. He loves and honors your path and purpose, and then you amplify each other. Like
Mhm.
because he gives you that stable foundation and you give him that stable foundation. And I think that's where that's the game you're playing now, because now you're really moving more fully into this purpose path, right? This like that was just so designed for you. That I think having that stability in relationship is crucial. It really
Yeah.
is.
I love that. And I agree with that so much. And um
In
I have a
2027,
list.
it's going
What's
to
that?
happen. 2027. Well, you're in a
2027?
5 year. You're in a 5 year, right?
Oh, we didn't even talk about the
Well,
year
I
that
can
I'm
really
in.
quick because I
Oh, yeah.
calculated before we got on, and
Okay.
I think you're in a 5 personal year this year, right? Have you calculated yours?
I know. I mean, I think we did before, but
I'm almost
I don't know how
positive.
you did all that. So
Oh, yeah,
I
you
think
are.
I was in a yeah, 3 year before and when we
Yeah, so
first did
you're
it. So
okay. So last year
okay.
for you was a 4 year, which was all probably felt like what is happening, because it was a foundation building year. It can feel a little limiting, but it can feel like a lot. Like you're seeing kind of cracks and foundations of different areas of your life, like that you need
Mhm.
to really like fortify and solidify. And it's usually a year of like keeping your head down and working your tail off is what it feels like your 4 year is. Then you go
I
into
mean, I that was literally my whole year. My friends were like, I've always wondered like what country you're in or where you are or what you're
yeah.
doing. I was
Very
just
poor.
head down, worked. I felt like, yeah. So
So
dead.
that was on point. When I saw that, I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that tracks. That tracks.
Okay.
And then this year is a 5 year. The 5 is like the middle of the 9 year cycle that we all follow. So we all follow this personal year cycle. There's also a universal year cycle, which we feel and we are impacted by. But our personal year cycle, we feel the most. And essentially, it's a 9 year cycle we go through. Each year is a different theme. Think of it as a different theme party, but ultimately, we're being initiated into an energy, right? We're learning through the energy. And so this year for you, the 5 is about freedom. What is freedom to you? What defining that, like clarifying that, and then it's also about change, and um, it's about also, interestingly enough, because of freedom, it's about depth. Because what can happen is in a 5 year is like there's just a lot going. It feels like there's things kind of coming out of left field, lots of surprises. I call it like the expect the unexpected year. Usually there's some like total like curveballs that you
I
didn't
love
anticipate.
surprises actually. So
I do
this
too.
year,
I
I
love 5 years.
live
I
for that.
think, but
Live.
every 5 year I can remember has always brought something completely out of left field for me, where I'm like, what? And I did not see that coming, but it's a part of your path. So it's going to help you really like lean into that adaptability and be like, okay, so this is the path and this is what's going to happen. And but it can be a fast moving year. It can be a year that's great for travel. Like it is more like 4 year kind of felt probably heavier and like just all encompassing. The 5 can feel a bit like a breath of fresh air if you have a really healthy relationship with change and you're not fearful of that, of the unknown. And just trusting that, you know what, like as long as your intention is always highest and best timeline, that's what I'm claiming. Like I'm claiming
Mm-hmm.
it. And so if it's coming to me, I will say yes to life and I will trust. But I'm claiming I do not want deviations here. Like I want only what is meant for me. And so for you, then you can even calculate to the month. So April for you is actually a 9 month and a 5 year. So there's going to be some kind of maybe some endings. I know you already kind of had an ending in the beginning of April, right? Like of an ending of one thing, beginning of another. It's kind of it's like completion energy. There might be some things you let go of. There might be some, it could be internal, it could be external. It's a good month for purging. It's a good month for creating space because May is new. Something new is coming in May. I don't know, maybe like a podcast launch or this, you know what I mean? Like, so May is a one energy in a 5 year. So something new is going to be birthed in May. It might
Okay.
be something you are aware of. It might be something you're not aware of. But then, that's really key is just understanding kind of when those key months are happening. But 2027 is a 6 year for you. The six
Okay.
is the year, most common year for meeting soulmates, getting married, for some people having babies, for some people getting divorces. Like it is a year that really hones in on relationship, on
Okay.
love, and on home. Also creativity. It can be a really creative time, but it's usually more so around you in partnership and how you love. It could be sometimes it's a little bit of responsibility themes in terms of maybe caring for someone or taking care of a parent a little bit, or like it's more relational, whereas the five is a little bit more, I would say, independent. It's so it doesn't mean you can't meet someone in a 5 year, you might. But if you haven't met them before the 6 year, it's happening. I would put money on
All right.
it.
You're gonna put money on it. How much
So
money would you put
just
on
have fun. Just have fun this year, Megs. Just don't
Yeah.
take it too seriously. Allow whatever wants to flow to flow.
Ah,
And for sure, I think next year will probably be the
oh
year
my
for
gosh. Ooh, I love that you mentioned the relationship with change because I feel like I love change actually. Like I don't say I get bored easily, but I love the change of doing different things. So doing
yeah.
the same exact thing every day or as outside of healthy routines when it comes to health and,
Yeah.
um, taking care of myself and all of that. But as far as like what I'm doing each day, I love doing something different or
Yeah.
learning something new is kind of encompassed in that. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm super excited to see what this
I
brings.
can't wait. I'm excited to witness it alongside you and just to cheer you on because I know that you just have such an incredible, incredible gift to share with the world. And it is my honor to have you at my table,
Oh,
my table of life.
I'm the one that feels honored. I mean, I love all the work that you're doing, what you're putting out there, and your book. Totally plugging your book, The Universe is Hiring by Anniston Blair Riekstins, helped me so much. One of the things that I love that you have the reader do is your purpose commitment.
Yeah.
And so I took the time to sit and write out all of these things and the exercise that you do. And my purpose commitment is I am a curious, courageous, and magnetic student of life.
Ooh, I
And
love
I
that.
freely share my gifts with women from all over the world to help them fall in love with themselves.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's so
So
you.
I wrote it, I
That's so
printed it
you.
out, I signed it, I
I
have
feel
it in my
it.
office, and it's just a great daily reminder of where I feel I belong and my meaning,
Yeah.
my meaning and my purpose. And so thank you for all the work that you do. And thank you for following your meaning and purpose because I know it blesses more than just me, so many other women. And I'm just excited to see what you do with all of that too and how that progresses. And hopefully we can do it together sometimes.
I have no doubt that we will. So
Yep.
thank you, thank you for the honor of being on your podcast. This is amazing.
Well, you're the inaugural. kind of kind of happened. But what I would love to do so is post a picture of my soul contract blueprint so people
Okay,
can actually see those numbers and what that looks like because it's really
sure.
interesting. And then out your information too and how everybody can find you and connect with you.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for your time and your energy and your gifts. The world needs more of you.
Oh,
Thank
oh,
you.
I love you, sister. Thank
Love you
you.
too.